not to like jump the gun and be a psychopath, but I have stuff to get off my chest. Our first segment, can we introduce it?
Yeah, we can. It's called
Get It Off My Chest.
Yeah.
And
let's get it off our chest. How are you feeling today? Obviously,
I feel like there's some things that I do want to get off my chest.
Okay, how are you feeling?
I do think that we can kind of like funnel our Sounds About White segment into Get It Off My Chest. Just because I've had a lot of experiences where the only reaction is, sounds about white, you know? And one of them is with a mutual friend of ours.
Right.
That turns out, although we talk 133 times a day, you and I,
right,
there's a lot of details in both of our lives that we don't know about each other, just like random happenings.
Really? I feel like you know,
so for instance,
you know everything about me.
I do. We know the meat. You know what I mean? But there's some
the bones and the veins and the nerves.
Okay, then how come I didn't know you were fighting with a certain Australian friend of ours? Okay, I didn't know you guys were bickering.
Right.
We have this mutual friend of ours, this Australian chick, super cool chick. We've been friends with her, you for years, me relatively newer.
She's a new friend.
For me.
All of us. 7 years.
7 years. That's relative. For the record, just to kind of like clear it up with our audience, we've known most of our friends for over 20 years.
Yeah, that's why that's new.
We're from LA. We grew up out here. Yeah. We've been running around with the same psycho little mixed breed girls that we grew up with and that made us feel
forever.
Like
Literally.
Less of an outcast. Yeah.
I had 8th grade graduations with some of them.
No, I know. I get it.
Yeah.
My more recent Sounds About White experience was when I was on Instagram, smoking a joint in bed, being a lazy bum, looking at Insta stories. And I come across one where a mutual friend of ours is playing Australian chick, you know,
I'm so mad
upper
at you for
class.
bringing this up because I was not trying to put any energy into negativity.
This isn't negative. This is just like
life.
A circumstance.
It's life. Okay.
It doesn't even mean anything. I don't even feel away. I just feel like Sounds About White. You know? There's nothing negative. I think she's a sweet chick. So I'm on her Insta story and she's an Australian mutual friend of ours who comes from like a pretty well-off family and more power to them. Good for them, but she's super privileged. Yeah. Damn, I wish I could remember. My brother told me that there's like there's terminology for like when you see like a bunch of white girls, it's called like a pack of privilege, which is hilarious to me.
I will look it up right now.
But no, I think he made it up. I don't even know if it's like a validated thing. However, so I'm on her Insta story. I see her playing Meek, Rick Ross, and Hove's song that is pretty much kind of unpacking the complications of mass incarceration and
the song Free.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Right.
What's free? And they just kind of like unpack all of that. And she's showing her steam room and her shower while the song plays in the background.
In her penthouse of her condo.
Mind you, I am the biggest Jay-Z stan that's
your god
ever been existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't tolerate it. I'm also so proud of the man that Meek's kind of like evolved into through his circumstances.
Yeah.
And so of course, like
Black man too. Like
responded to her Insta story and was just like, you can't white privilege flex to that song. It's illegal. Kind of just like as a LOL, but also don't do that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then she responded like, no, I never see color. And then I responded with Sounds About White.
Yeah.
You know, because we don't have that privilege.
No.
I can't not see color.
Yeah.
Because I just live in a different world than you. And
black.
Also, I have my eyes. So every time I look through them,
that's what it is.
I see different shades of shit, my nigga. And you pretending that you don't because it makes you feel like more of an ally is some cunt shit. Like, I'm not here for that.
No, 100%. And also, it brings me, because you know, I just got back from Australia doing a tour in Australia and
you
New Zealand.
fancy girl.
Yeah, good little fun DJ. But so I was there for 2 weeks.
Right.
And I didn't realize how racist Australia is. Like I knew
as a continent.
Yeah, like I knew but I didn't know. And like for our listeners, obviously, you know, a little history sum up real quick. Back in the day, Australians, they pretty much like exiled and shipped all of their black people to Aborigine.
And murdered. No, well, it's not that great, the presence of people of color in Australia is pretty non-existent, slim to none. And the only people of color that you really will find is kind of off the coast of Papua New Guinea and the Aborigine people. Mm-hmm. And they're still like beach wash black, that.
That's crazy because it reminds me or brings me back to, I just got off tour from doing that Australian-New Zealand tour for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Which was obviously awesome because I fucking went to Australia and New Zealand. But crazy at the same time because I didn't realize how racist Australia is.
There's no black people there. They banned them. They sent them away.
They sent that
They sent them to Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, and
that's where they're at.
100%. For our listeners who don't know, like the history behind Australia is they literally exiled
and murdered and put them in slavery. It's a whole entire everything evil you can imagine
to black people.
They did that to their blacks. But didn't you say that they call them something else?
Aborigines.
No, the black people in general, like in Australia, like in Melbourne.
They were calling, what? Because they were calling me the dark people. Like literally there was this, okay, so there were 2 other black people and we're walking down the street and this like
Wait, like with your team when you're touring and stuff?
We're I think we're in like Sydney or whatever.
Right.
And we're walking down the street and literally this little white baby is like smiling at one of us. So we're like, oh, cute, a little baby, you know?
Interacting with it.
And the dad is like, she loves the darks. I just, I never know what it is, but she just loves the dark.
How did you respond to that?
All I could do, bitch,
I would have been like...
I just fake smiled and smized my way away. Aww. And it was just, because I knew genuinely and sincerely he didn't mean anything.
He didn't mean any harm by it.
But it just was racist. And it was just like, how did you not know that? And it was just like the amount of black people, I could count on both hands how many black people I saw in those 2 weeks.
That would make me so uncomfortable.
Like, and it wasn't until I got to New Zealand that I was like, thank God, Yeah. But like...
Oh, because there was like a higher percentage of just
Well, New Zealand is very like islandy, like I literally thought I was in like a Moana movie. Like I don't need to be, but it was, it's very like tribal and like all of that. Very similar to like Hawaii and all of that, So a lot of melanin happening. In Australia, like I said, I can count on 2 hands in a matter of 2 weeks how many black people I saw.
That would have freaked me
out. And then for the dad to like say to me like, oh, she just loves the darks. It was
how condescending.
Girl.
Sounds about white.
Yeah, sounds about white. Exactly. And it was just like, I guess, And then I ended up having like this whole entire deep discussion with somebody backstage before we were going on stage. And like, they were pretty much telling me how much they couldn't stand Beyonce. And I was just like, how can you possibly hate on Beyonce?
That is the devil reincarnated to say that.
Beyonce is the hardest working woman in this entertainment industry.
Nobody hates Beyonce.
Nobody. It doesn't matter if you don't like her music or anything. You just can't hate her. You know what I mean? So I'm like, how do you hate her? And she's like, oh, well, she's disrespectful to the police. And I'm like, how is she disrespectful to the police? And she's like, and not only that, but then she asked the police to protect her. And I'm like, what are you even talking about?
When did this take place?
Yeah. And she's like, the Super Bowl. She's like, with her whole Black Panther performance. She's like, I'm like, how is that disrespectful? She's like, oh, Black Panthers were disrespectful to the police and they were really aggressive people. And I was just like,
they were defending their people against the police who were marginalizing them and still have been doing it for the past how many decades?
Exactly. That's literally what I said. I was like, you mean defensive?
Yeah.
Like, how can you even? And then she went on this whole rant, like, how can we continue to relive the past and still, she's like, Beyonce keeps trying to make us relive it. And I'm like, she's not making us.
Oh, is it Beyonce that's doing that? It's not slavery.
It's
in
not
general, the fact that this existed.
It's not even little boys still getting shot.
Young teenagers getting shot in the street.
Lynched. Like, still,
it's Beyonce.
We're still reliving. We're still
She's
living
ruining this country.
We're still living in those times. And
it's nauseating.
She was so ignorant in what she was talking about that it was just like, wow. I was literally in a conversation with somebody that was like, this is middle America. This is white America.
Yeah, well,
this is
the Bible Belt and below. Like, what, just not to generalize, but where geographically is she from?
I don't want to say.
So then I'm going to guess Georgia,
America.
Alabama, or Florida. It has to be one of the southern states.
There, so
you don't have to put it in there.
Yeah,
I just at the end of the day, like the thing about it is we're from these cities that are metropolitan. You know what I mean? And we have a level of diversity that has exposed us to expecting kind of the globe to be a little bit more open-minded and kind of pro-humanity and people in general. And when we meet people that don't represent that, it's a fucking culture shock.
It was just crazy to me because it was just like I was in Australia. I was already dealing with like being called a dark person.
Yeah, a dark.
I'm having
like it's a pronoun.
Then I'm having
a dark.
And then I'm having an argument with a person about Beyonce disrespecting the police all because of her Black Panther performance. And it was just like, you just have no idea. And you are literally just
You didn't want to be like, I'm the child of a Black Panther. You never want to like, I'm the first person to be like, excuse you, my dad's a Black Panther.
It's so funny because both of us are daughters of Black Panther, but I feel like
we're called Panther pups.
Okay, well, whatever. See, and the fact that you know that, like, I didn't. My last name is Shabazz. You know what I mean? Right. And I didn't even learn what my last name really meant until my early 20s. You know, so but you grew up like, bitch. Your first hand movement was your right fist up in the air. You know, so
yeah. Like, well, and a middle finger.
Exactly, 100%. So like, but more than ever in my life, I felt like. I felt like my dad's daughter. Like, what? Like, how can you?
That's intense. Yeah.
Because it was just, I was just so overwhelmed with racism and just everything. And it was just like, this is what I'm dealing with today in 2018. And I'm raising a Black son. Like, I'm raising a Black son with people like you in this world. That's just wild.
That sounds okay. Well, yeah, that is getting it off our chest and sounds about why